Yeah, the actual lawyer. Not the one.
But it is absolutely not. The harmony that has presided over this House in relation to this urgency motion has well and truly ended with this terrible bill, which does attack workers' rights and does take working New Zealanders backwards, both literally in the sense that this was a law that used to apply. Does the ACT Party have no new ideas apart from rehashing things that were tried and tested and found to have failed? There is no evidence for this bill to go ahead at all. And not only that, Mr Speaker, not only does this bill take workers backwards, but there is absolutely no evidence provided in the regulatory impact statement on the effectiveness of this bill, or the effectiveness is actually needed at all. In fact, the regulatory impact statement goes into great detail of the fact that there couldn't be proper assessments done on this bill, and the bill itself only partially meets the quality assurance standards of MB, the very ministry who drafted this bill. Why is the ACT Party deciding to, at every attempt, bring ideological changes to this House which simply do not work in practice, do not take New Zealand workplaces forward, and actually have no evidential basis, not only to bring them forward, but also with not sufficient time for their own officials to actually scrutinise them and put them through the proper processes? This is absolutely terrible, Mr Speaker. And I want to speak to, I don't have much time as this is first reading, 5 minutes. I want to speak to the real heart of the problem of this bill, and that was, in essence, the interjections that I was making to the previous speaker. This is a bill that does not just apply when people do not work. Partial strikes are often situations where people have things like a union t-shirt on, a badge, a sign on their fire truck. These are all examples of partial strikes that would be covered by this bill. In those circumstances, Mr Speaker, at the passage of this bill, an employer would be able to deduct 10% or more possibly, they use other type of calculation, of an employee's wages when they have done their job, when they have fulfilled their contractual entitlement, and the only thing that they are doing is taking action to support their bargaining that they're having with the employer. Now, this bill, I would even go as far to say, goes against the object of the Employment Relations Act. The object of the Employment Relations Act is to promote collective bargaining. And what we have seen, and we've seen the CTU state this today, that this bill will do the exact opposite of promoting collective bargaining. This will actually possibly encourage the use of the full withdrawal of labour from workplaces, so encourage more strikes, so be more inconvenient to the public, mean that people can't access the public services that we all want them to see, because they don't have the option of a partial strike without financial penalty. This is a ridiculous proposition to put forward, that people should, an employer should be able to dock people's wages, their hard-earned wages, when they have done the job they're contracted to do. This could include things like coaching at schools. That would be impacted by this. If you decided not to do that, if you weren't paid for it, that could be considered a partial strike, and you might actually be paid less as a result of that. Doing extra duties, attending a rally during your lunch break, that would be considered coaching. Yeah, you know, like a sports coaching team. It's something that happens quite often in schools, and schools do have industrialisation. So yeah, coaching that people might do is an additional thing to their job. Now I do note in the bill, and I'm grateful that it does exclude partial strikes for things like health and safety. That is correct. That is the way that it should be. But there are so many other different types of ways that people could be political in their role, supporting the role of their union, their right to collectively bargain, which is protected under the Employment Relations Act, which would be covered by this bill. This is a bill, and I'm looking at members opposite, that stops people being paid the minimum wage if they have a deduction for a partial strike. This is what you're passing today. It could be people who do their entire contracted duties, who do not breach their contract, who do not get paid the minimum wage because they're taking part in their union action for better pay and conditions. This is taking New Zealand workplaces literally backwards to a different time when the law came into place. There is no evidence. There's actually mistakes in this legislation. It has been rushed through. I know that we are having a select committee, and I feel silly saying that I'm grateful for it, but I am. I do not commend it to the House.
I mean, let it cook. Let it cook now. Let it cook.
Now, here's an example that happened to me. One time I was asked by the owner of the business, can you come in early? We're short-staffed. So, had uniform, had the shirt on my head, walked in the door. The store manager stopped me and halted me in the tracks because the shirt I walked in was a Brotown shirt and was about to send me home. I got called in because I was short-staffed. All I wanted to do was go to the toilet, change into my work uniform, because I got called in early. Now, I did become prepared having my uniform sitting in my car rather than sitting at home, because it was something I got heads up the day before from the owner. But the fact that the manager, was prepared to sit there and send me home to change a shirt because I wore a Brotown shirt that had Papel on it. Now, is that going to be resulted in a 10% deduction? Where does that line stop? If we're going to hit individual employment agreements, that sort of thing there. Oh, you got sent home to change your shirt, something stupid, something stupid like that, where is the line going to be drawn? And exactly, it's like the employer's always right sort of mentality. I mean, I'd love to know what sort of consequences there are for, but the employer's right and they're wrong. I mean, I remember when NZ Bus, when it was owned by Next Capital, did a permanent lockout, that they even had a pro-national supporter going, what they've done is illegal. Who wasn't a big-time union person, but he said, what's happening is illegal.
Yeah.
And later on got an injunction that actually resulted in it. And also something else that gets mentioned in here commonly as, why, instead of bus drivers going on strike and why don't do a partial strike, not collect bus fares? Well, actually in Wellington that would not work because it wouldn't punish the employer, it would punish the ratepayer.
Yep.
Just because of the way how fares are collected.
I have a question for David. What evidence does he have that this will not increase the number of strikes occurring, like full-blown strikes?
Actually, how will Simeon Brown handle one of these strikes on his hands? I wouldn't be surprised if this year is going to be the health sector year of the strike. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I'd love to, unfortunately, watch it explode.
Yeah. So it's just like, the partial strike, that's like a warning sign. And then you have your full strike, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, they're just basically saying, oh, yeah, let's get rid of the bells and whistles. Let's get rid of all that. Let's not have partial strike.
Let's get rid of the railway warning bells to warn you train code. Let's get rid of the barrier arms. Let's just have the train roar past at 110 kilometres per hour.
Go hard or go home, literally. That's what David's asking. That's what David is asking for. It's like, okay, you either work or you go on a full strike. Okay, cool. Sweet.
Yeah.